Good morning. If you're on, I hope you're doing well. Today is March 7th. It is Thursday, and I'm excited to be here together this morning to read God's word, to get into um oh, sorry. Hopefully there's no feedback from that, but yeah, I'm excited for us to start this morning off just soaking up God's word together. And so before we do, I'm just going to, um, yeah, just going to share a few things. First of all, this is where we're at now. It's a little bit of a difference from yesterday. Here, let me actually go webcam here. There you go. That's where we are today, right? You wait, there, right there. And so we are going to be starting at Deuteronomy chapter 8 this morning, going to chapter 23. As of right now, we are about 46% into the reading of the whole Bible, if you go by chapter count, which is pretty cool. And so this is again, this is the document here. If you want to make a copy of this document for yourself, the link to this is in the description below, like the links for everything else that that I have here. Let me just remove the graphic. There you go. Okay, so we have a few things here. So if you are ever curious about the readings that are happening, like what's happening on a given day, and what's going to happen on a future day, whatever, this is the plan here. The plan's in the description as well. This is where we are today, day 16 of reading through the Bible in 102 days, and it is Deuteronomy chapters 8 to 23. Then this is the schedule from which I'm reading live Monday to Friday from 7 to 8:30 a.m. and then Saturdays at 10 a.m. to be able to read with a friend. This here is the collaborative notes document. So if you have anything that you notice in the passage in any given chapter as we're reading, and you want to contribute it to the overall discussion, then you can obviously you can write stuff in the YouTube chat, but there's also this collaborative notes document that is only getting richer as more people contribute and add to it, and share their observations. If you're ever curious about my notes, this is the document with my notes in it, and I'll make sure to update that as we go this morning. After every chapter, I'll just take a couple bullet point notes, and as a summary of what we saw yesterday, we saw that the people are to keep the covenant with God. They have to keep it, and if they do, well, it will go well with them. And if they don't, and they won't, well, then it won't go well with them, and God won't be protecting them. And they need to destroy all the idols, anything that stands in the way of God in the land that they are going to live in, and they're not to make any, because there is only God as the one true God, and God is faithful and covenant keeping. He is true to his promises, and so that's why they're to be loyal to him, and he is fully loyal in his part of the covenant. But and we'll see this as we keep going through the Bible, that people are not. And so let's start by praying. Before I do, I'm just going to read a quick sentence. As a disclaimer, the scriptures quoted are from the NET Bible, https://netbible.com, copyright 1996 and 2019, used with permission from Biblical Studies Press, LLC, all rights reserved. Yeah, thank you to the Nat Bible for being available for things like this, without without needing express special permission. So we are going to be starting at Deuteronomy chapter 8 this morning. I'm going to pray. We're going to dive in. Lord God, thank you so much for this morning. God, I thank you for the time that we have to read your word, to focus on you. Lord, I pray that this morning's reading would draw us closer to you, that we would see in the pages of Scripture your intentions for people knowing you, just the way it was expressed and intended back then, Lord, your desire for a relationship with humanity, your opportunity made available to us to know you, you reaching out to us, you calling us. Lord, thank you. Thank you, Lord, that you are the faithful God. Thank you that you keep your promises forever and ever. Thank you that we can trust you. I pray, Lord, that your word would just be so alive as we read, Lord, that we would just see your goodness. I pray in your name, Jesus. Amen. So, if you're on this morning and you want to say hi, just feel free to say hi in the chat. And if you want to keep up with what's going on, keep up with the journey, feel free to subscribe. If you don't, no worries. Let's read. Let's do this. This is cool. The Lord's provision in the desert. You must keep carefully all these commandments I am giving you today, so that you may live, increase in number, and go in and occupy the land that the Lord promised to your ancestors. Remember the whole way by which he has brought you these 40 years through the wilderness, so that he might by humbling you, test you to see if you have it within you to keep his commandments or not. So he humbled you. By making you hungry and then feeding you with unfamiliar manna. He did this to teach you that humankind cannot live by bread alone, but also by everything that comes from the Lord's mouth. Your clothing did not wear out, nor did your feet swell all these 40 years. Be keenly aware that just as a parent disciplines his child, so the Lord your God disciplines you. So you must keep his commandments, live according to his standards, and revere him. For the Lord your God is bringing you to a good land, a land of brooks, springs, and fountains, flowing forth in valleys and hills, a land of wheat, barley, vines, fig trees, and pomegranates, and of olive trees and honey, a land where you may eat food in plenty and find no lack of anything, a land whose stones are iron and from whose hills you can mine copper. You will eat your fill and then praise the Lord your God because of the good land he has given you. Be sure you do not forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments, ordinances, and statutes that I am giving you today. When you eat your fill, when you build and occupy good houses, when your cattle and flocks increase, when you have plenty of silver and gold, and when you have abundance of everything, be sure you do not feel self-important and forget the Lord your God, who brought you from the land of Egypt, the place of slavery, and who brought you through the great fearful wilderness of venomous serpents and scorpions, an arid place with no water. He made water flow from a flint rock, and fed you in the wilderness with manna, which your ancestors had never before known, so that he might, by humbling you, test you, and eventually bring good to you. Be careful not to say, my own ability and skill have gotten me this wealth. You must remember the Lord your God, for he is the one who gives ability to get wealth If you do this, he will confirm his covenant that he made by oath to your ancestors, even as he has to this day. Now, if you forget the Lord and the Lord your God at all and follow other gods, worshiping and prostrating yourselves before them, I testify to you today that you will surely be annihilated. Just like the nations the Lord is about to destroy from your sight, so he will do to you because you would not obey him. Okay. So I'm going to take a couple notes here for Deuteronomy chapter 8. God is bringing them into this amazingly plentiful land. And so they must not forget him with everything that they will receive. They must not turn their backs on him, or they will be taken over. Yeah. Let's see. How do I get the chat back up on here? Oh, there you go. Okay. All right. That was the first chapter here. Let's see. Sorry, I just want to take a look here. My angle is a little lower. Oh no. That's okay. We'll go with it. Deuteronomy 9. Let's keep rolling. Listen, Israel, today you are about to cross the Jordan, so you can dispossess the nations there. People greater and stronger than you, who live in large cities with extremely high fortifications. They include the Anakites, a numerous and tall people whom you know about and of whom it is said, who is able to resist the Anakites? Understand today that the Lord your God, who goes before you, is a devouring fire. He will defeat and subdue them before you. You will dispossess and destroy them quickly, just as he told you. Do not think to yourself, after the Lord your God has driven them out before you, because of my own righteousness, the Lord has brought me here to possess this land. It is because of the wickedness of these nations that the Lord is driving them out ahead of you. It is not because of your righteousness or even your inner uprightness that you have come here to possess their land. Instead, because of the wickedness of these nations, the Lord your God is driving them out ahead of you in order to confirm the promise he made on oath to your ancestors, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Understand, therefore, that it is not because of your righteousness that the Lord your God is about to give you this good land as a possession, for you are a stubborn people. Remember, don't ever forget how you provoked the Lord your God in the wilderness. From the time you left the land of Egypt until you came to this place, you were constantly rebelling against him. At Horeb, you provoked him, and he was angry enough with you to destroy you. When I went up the mountain to receive the stone tablets, the tablets of the covenant that the Lord made with you, I remained there 40 days and nights, eating and drinking nothing. The Lord gave me the 2 stone tablets, written by the very finger of God, and on them was everything he said to you at the mountain from the midst of the fire at the time of that assembly. Now, at the end of the 40 days and nights, the Lord presented me with the 2 stone tablets, the tablets of the covenant. And he said to me, "Get up, Go down at once from here, because your people whom you brought out of Egypt have sinned. They have quickly turned from the way I commanded them, and have made for themselves a cast metal image. Moreover, he said to me, I have taken note of these people. They are a stubborn lot. Stand aside, and I will destroy them, obliterating their very name from memory, and I will make you into a stronger and more numerous nation than they are. So I turned and went down the mountain. While it was blazing with fire, the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my hands. When I looked, you had indeed sinned against the Lord your God, and had cast for yourselves a metal calf. You had quickly turned aside from the way he had commanded you. I grabbed the 2 tablets, threw them down, and shattered them before your very eyes. Then I again fell down before the Lord for 40 days and nights. I ate and drank nothing because of all the sin you had committed, doing such evil before the Lord as to enrage him. For I was terrified at the Lord's intense anger that threatened to destroy you. But he listened to me, and this time as well. The Lord was also angry enough with Aaron to kill him, but at that time I prayed for him too. As for your sinful thing that you had made, the calf, I took it, melted it down, ground it up until it was fine as dust, and tossed the dust into the stream that flows down the mountain. Moreover, you continued to provoke the Lord at Taberah, Massah, and Kibroth Hattaavah. And when he sent you from Kadesh Barnea and told you, go up and possess the land I have given you, you rebelled against the Lord your God and would neither believe nor obey him. You have been rebelling against him from the very first day I knew you. I lay flat on the ground before the Lord for 40 days and nights, for he had said he would destroy you. I prayed to him, O sovereign Lord, do not destroy your people, your valued property, that you have powerfully redeemed, whom you brought out of Egypt by your strength. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Ignore the stubbornness, wickedness, and sin of these people. Otherwise, the people of the land from which you brought us will say, the Lord was unable to bring them to the land he promised them. And because of his hatred for them, he has brought them out to kill them in the wilderness. They are your people, your valued property, whom you brought out with great strength and power. Okay. This chapter was interesting. There's definitely some very significant repetition at the start. As the people go into the land and dispossess the people who live there now, they are not to start to think that it was because of their own righteousness. Repeated multiple times that it's not because of their righteousness that they are going to be taking the land. It is because God is true to his promises, and because of the evil of the people in the land. They are not to forget the great evil that they committed in making the golden calf while the top of the mountain was filled with the presence of God. And Moses was up there for 40 days and 40 nights without eating or drinking. They're also not to forget how they cowarded from going forward and obeying the call to go into the land. I just want to emphasize it one more time because it was so heavily emphasized. not because of their righteousness. Okay, let's keep reading. Deuteronomy 10. At that time, the Lord said to me, carve for yourself 2 stone tablets, like the first ones, and come up the mountain to me. Also, make for yourself a wooden ark. I will write on the tablets the same words that were on the first tablets you broke, and you must put them into the ark. So I made an ark of acacia wood and carved out 2 stone tablets just like the first ones. Then I went up the mountain with the 2 tablets in my hands. The Lord then wrote on the tablets the same words, the 10 Commandments, which he had spoken to you at the mountain from the middle of the fire at the time of that assembly, and he gave them to me. Then I turned, went down the mountain, and placed the tablets into the ark I had made. They are still there, just as the Lord commanded me. During those days, the Israelites traveled from Beeroth ben Jaakan to Mosera. There Aaron died and was buried, and his son Eleazar became priest in his place. From there they traveled to Gudgoda, and from Gudgoda to Jotbatha, a place of flowing streams. At that time, the Lord set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the ark of the Lord's covenant, to stand before the Lord to serve him, and to formulate blessings in his name, as they do to this very day. Therefore, Levi has no allotment or inheritance among his brothers. The Lord is his inheritance, just as the Lord your God told him. As for me, I stayed at the mountain, as I did for the first time, 40 days and nights. The Lord listened to me that time as well and decided not to destroy you. Then he said to me, get up, set out leading the people so they may go and possess the land I promised to give to their ancestors. Now, Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you except to revere him, to obey all his commandments, to love him, to serve him with all your mind and being, and to keep the Lord's commandments and statutes that I am giving you today for your own good? The heavens, indeed the highest heavens, belong to the Lord your God, as does the earth and everything in it. However, only to your ancestors did he show his loving favor, and he chose you, their descendants, from all peoples, as it is apparent today. Therefore, cleanse your hearts and stop being so stubborn. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great, mighty, and awesome God, who is unbiased and takes no bribe, who justly treats the orphan and widow, and who loves resident foreigners, giving them food and clothing. So you must love the resident foreigner, because you were foreigners in the land of Egypt. Revere the Lord your God, serve him, be loyal to him, and take oaths only in his name. He is the one you should praise. He is your God, the one who has done these great and awesome things for you that you have seen. When your ancestors went down to Egypt, they numbered only 70, but now the Lord your God has made you as numerous as the stars of the sky. Wow, it's cool. I'm just gonna take off my sweater. All right, there you go. It was it's getting toasty. That was an exciting passage. All right, let's take a few notes, and then, man. All right. Continuing the summary of the time in the wilderness from Moses bringing up 2 new tablets up to the top of Sinai. Get out, set out, leading people. And bringing them to where they are. All right. I'm just gonna copy this whole section. That are for, I don't know, the verses 12 and 13. I'm just gonna copy paste because, yeah. It says, now Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you except to revere him, to obey all his commandments, to love him, to serve him with all your mind and being, and to keep the Lord's commandments and statutes that I am giving you today for your own good. So, anyways, let's keep reading Deuteronomy 11. I'm gonna check the collaborative notes real quick. Deuteronomy. All right. Nothing so far. Again, if you have anything that you notice in the passage that is interesting, or some kind of something that is noticed, and you want to add it to the discussion, the overall discussion, then you can just throw it in the collaborative notes document. And this isn't just if you're watching live. If you're watching this after the fact, when it's been posted, you're more than welcome to add yours. I love reading all the notes that are added in the collaborative notes document. It really makes this even more exciting to do. So let's keep reading. And we're now at Deuteronomy chapter 11, where it says, you must love the Lord your God and do what he requires. Keep his statutes, ordinances, and commandments at all times. Bear in mind today that I am not speaking to your children who have not personally experienced the judgments of the Lord your God, which revealed his greatness, strength, and power. They did not see the awesome deeds. I'm not speaking to your children who have not personally experienced. Yeah, sorry, the double negative is confusing me. Not personally experienced the judgments of the Lord your God, which revealed his greatness, strength, and power. They did not see the awesome deeds he performed in the midst of Egypt against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and his whole land, or what he did to the army of Egypt, including their horses and chariots, when he made the waters of the Red Sea overwhelm them while they were pursuing you, and he annihilated them. They did not see what he did to you in the wilderness before you reached this place, or what he did to Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab the Reubenite, when the earth opened its mouth in the middle of the Israelite camp and swallowed them, their families, their tents, and all the property they brought with them. I am speaking to you because you are the ones who saw with your own eyes all the great deeds of the Lord. Now pay attention to all the commandments I am giving you today, so that you may be strong enough to enter and possess the land where you are headed, and that you may enjoy long life in the land. The Lord promised to give to your ancestors and their descendants a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land where you are headed is not like the land of Egypt, from which you came, a land where you planted seed and which you irrigated by hand like a vegetable garden. Instead, the land you are crossing the Jordan to occupy is one of hills and valleys, a land that drinks in water from the rains, a land the Lord your God looks after. He is constantly attentive to it, from the beginning to the end of the year. Now, if you pay close attention to my commandments that I am giving you today, and love the Lord your God, and serve him with all your mind and being, then he promises, I will send rain for your land in its season, like autumn and the spring rains. Sorry, the autumn and the spring rains, so that you may gather in your grain, new wine, and olive oil. I will provide pasture for your livestock, and you will eat your fill. Make sure you do not turn away to serve and worship other gods. Then the anger of the Lord will erupt against you, and he will close up the sky so that it does not rain. The land will not yield its produce, and you will soon be removed from the good land that the Lord is about to give you. Fix these words of mine into your mind and being, tie them as a reminder on your hands, and let them be symbols on your forehead. Teach them to your children, and speak of them as you sit in your house, and as you walk along the road, as you lie down, and as you get up. Inscribe them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates, so that your days and those of your descendants may be extended in the land that the Lord promised to give to your ancestors, like the days of heaven itself. For if you carefully observe all these commandments I am giving you, and love the Lord your God, live according to his standards, and remain loyal to him, then he will drive out all these nations ahead of you, and you will dispossess nations greater and stronger than you. Every place you set your foot will be yours. Your border will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the river that is the Euphrates as far as the Mediterranean Sea. Nobody will be able to resist you. The Lord your God will will spread the fear and terror of you over the whole land on which you walk, just as he promised you. Take note, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you take to heart the commandments of the Lord your God that I am giving you today, and the curse, if you pay no attention to his commandments and turn from the way I am setting before you today to pursue other gods you have not known. When the Lord your God brings you into the land you are to possess, you must pronounce the blessing on Mount Gerizim and the curse on Mount Ebal. Are they not across the Jordan River toward the west in the land of the Canaanites, who live in the Rift Valley opposite Gilgal, near the oak of Moreh? For you are about to cross the Jordan to possess the land the Lord your God is giving you, and you will possess and inhabit it. Be certain to keep all the statutes and ordinances that I am presenting to you today. All right. The people must love God and keep all his statutes, ordinances, and commandments. They know what God did in the wilderness and how he brought good judgment on evil, so they are not to turn away from God, semicolon, therefore committing evil. Let's see, abundance of the land of promise. Yeah. They are to obey God, and they will live plentifully in the land, if they don't obey him and live for him, then things will go very poorly for them. All right. Deuteronomy 12. Sorry. Just want to check again where we're going to today. To 23. Okay. Nice. This angle feels too low now. I kind of want to fix it, but I'll leave it. I gotta leave it. Okay, the central sanctuary. Deuteronomy chapter 12. These are the statutes and ordinances you must be careful to obey as long as you live in the land the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has given you to possess. You must by all means destroy all the places where the nations you are about to dispossess worship their gods. On the high mountains and hills and under every leafy tree, you must tear down their altars, shatter their sacred pillars, burn up their sacred Asherah poles, and cut down the images of their gods. You must eliminate their very memory from that place. You must not worship the Lord your God the way they worship, but you must seek only the place he chooses from all your tribes to establish his name as his place of residence, and you must go there. And there you must take your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, the personal offerings you have prepared, your votive offerings, your freewill offerings, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks. Both you and your families must feast there before the Lord your God and rejoice in all the output of your labor with which he has blessed you. You must not do as we are doing here today, with everyone doing what seems best to him, for you have not yet come to the final stop and inheritance the Lord your God is giving you. When you do go across the Jordan River and settle in the land he is granting you as an inheritance, and you find relief from all the enemies who surround you, you will live in safety. Then you must come to the place the Lord your God chooses for his name to reside, bringing everything I am commanding you: your burnt offerings, sacrifices, tithes, the personal offerings you have prepared, and all your choice votive offerings that you devote to him. You shall rejoice in the presence of the Lord your God, along with your sons, daughters, male and female servants, and the Levites in your villages, since they have no allotment or inheritance with you. Make sure you do not offer burnt offerings in any place you wish. For you may do so only in the place the Lord chooses in one of your tribal areas. There you may do everything I am commanding you. On the other hand, you may slaughter and eat meat as you please when the Lord your God blesses you in all your villages. Both the ritually pure and impure may eat it, whether it is a gazelle or an ibex. However, you must not eat blood. Pour it out on the ground like water. You will not be allowed to eat in your villages your tithe of grain, new wine, olive oil, the firstborn of your herd and flock, any votive offerings you have vowed, or your freewill and personal offerings. Only in the presence of the Lord your God may you eat these, in the place he chooses. This applies to you, your son, your daughter, your male and female servants, and the Levites in your villages. In that place you will rejoice before the Lord your God in all the output of your labor. Be careful not to overlook the Levites as long as you live in the land. When the Lord your God extends your borders as he said he would do, and you say, I want to eat meat just as I please, you may do so as you wish. If the place he chooses to locate his name is too far for you, you may slaughter any of your herd and flock he has given you, just as I have stipulated. You may eat them in your villages just as you wish. As you eat the gazelle or ibex, so you may eat these. The ritually impure and pure alike may eat them. However, by no means eat the blood, for the blood is life itself. You must not eat the life with the meat. You must not eat it. You must pour it out on the ground like water. You must not eat it, so that it may go well with you and your children after you. You will be doing what is right in the Lord's sight. But the holy things and the votive offerings that belong to you, you must pick up Pick up and take to the place the Lord will choose. You must offer your burnt offerings, both meat and blood, on the altar of the Lord your God. The blood of your other sacrifices you must pour out on his altar while you eat the meat. Pay careful attention to all these things I am commanding you, so that it may always go well with you and your children after you when you do what is good and right in the sight of the Lord your God. When the Lord your God eliminates the nations from the place where you are headed and you dispossess them, you will settle down in their land. After they have been destroyed from your presence, be careful not to be ensnared like they are. Do not pursue their gods and say, "How do these nations serve their gods?" I will do the same. You must not worship the Lord your God the way they do, for everything is abhorrent to him. Everything he hates, they have done when worshiping their gods. They even burn up their sons and daughters before their gods. You must be careful to do everything I am commanding you. Do not add to it or subtract from it. Okay. Oh, wow, there's a lot in this chapter. Yeah. They must obey God. They must not eat the blood. Comma, life is in the blood. There's something else. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. They must absolutely destroy every place of pagan worship. Next chapter. Deuteronomy 13. Suppose a prophet or one of your one who foretells by dreams should appear among you and show you a sign or wonder, and the sign or wonder should come to pass concerning what he said to you, namely, let us follow other gods, gods whom you have not previously known, and let us serve them. You must not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer, for the Lord your God will be testing you to see if you love him with all your mind and being. You must follow the Lord your God and revere only him. And you must observe his commandments, obey him, serve him, and remain loyal to him. As for that prophet or dreamer, he must be executed, because he encouraged rebellion against the Lord your God, who brought you from the land of Egypt, redeeming you from that place of slavery, and because he has tried to entice you from the way the Lord your God has commanded you to go. In this way you must purge evil from among you. Suppose your own full brother, your son, your daughter, your beloved wife, or your closest friend should seduce you secretly and encourage you to go and serve other gods that neither you nor your ancestors have previously known, the gods of the surrounding people, whether near you or far from you, from one end of the earth to the other. You must not give in to him or even listen to him. Do not feel sympathy for him, or spare him, or cover up for him. Instead, you must kill him without fail. Your own hand must be the first to strike him, then the hands of the whole community. You must stone him to death because he tried to entice you away from the Lord your God, who delivered you from the land of Egypt, that place of slavery. Thus all Israel will hear and be afraid. No longer will they continue to do evil like this among you. Suppose you should hear in one of your cities, which the Lord your God is giving you as a place to live, that some evil people have departed from among you to entice the inhabitants of their cities, saying, "Let's go and serve other gods, whom you have not known before." You must investigate thoroughly and inquire carefully if it is indeed true that such a disgraceful thing is being done among you. You must by all means slaughter the inhabitants of that city with the sword, annihilate with the sword anyone in it, as well as the livestock. You must gather all of its plunder into the middle of the plaza and burn the city and all its plunder as a whole burnt offering to the Lord your God. It will be an abandoned ruin forever. It must never be rebuilt again. You must not take for yourself anything that has been placed under judgment. Then the Lord will relent from his intense anger, show you compassion, have mercy on you, and multiply you as he promised your ancestors. Thus, you must obey the Lord your God, keeping all his commandments that I am giving you today, and doing what is right before him. This is interesting. So, in Deuteronomy 13, we see that God knows how easily enticed and seduced into serving false gods the people are. So he commands that anyone who tries to entice someone else into serving idols and worshiping idols, that person be put to death. Because it's better for that person to die than for that sin to continually entice more and more people, as they are extremely likely to do. Same with if a city is completely enticed with worshiping false gods. Boom. Deuteronomy 14. Man. The holy and profane. You are children of the Lord your God. Do not cut yourselves or shave your forehead, bald for the sake of the dead. For you are a people holy to the Lord your God. He has chosen you to be his people, prized above all others on the face of the earth. You must not eat, any forbidden thing. These are the animals you may eat: the ox, the sheep, the goat, the ibex, the gazelle, the deer, the wild goat, the antelope, the wild oryx, the mountain sheep. You may eat any animal that has hooves divided in two parts and that chews the cud. However, you may not eat the following animals among those that chew the cud, or those that have divided hooves: the camel, the hare, the rock badger. Although they chew the cud, they do not have divided hooves, and are therefore ritually impure to you. Also the pig is ritually impure to you. Though it has divided hooves, it does not chew the cud. You may not eat their meat or even touch their remains. These you may eat from among water creatures. Anything with fins and scales you may eat, but whatever does not have fins and scales you may not eat. It is ritually impure to you. All ritually clean birds you may eat. These are the ones you may not eat: the eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the kite, the black kite, the dea after its species, every raven after its species, the ostrich, the owl, the seagull, the falcon after its species, the little owl, the long-eared owl, the white owl, the jackdaw, the carrion vulture, the cormorant, the stork, the heron after its species, the hoopoe, and the bat. And any swarming winged thing is impure to you. They may not be eaten. You may eat any winged creature that is clean. You may not eat any corpse, though. You may give it to the resident foreigner who is living in your villages, and he may eat it. You may sell it to a foreigner. You are a people holy to the Lord your God. Do not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. You must be certain to tithe all the produce of your seed that comes from the field year after year, in the presence of the Lord your God, in the place he chooses to locate his name. You must eat from the tithe of your grain, your new wine, your olive oil, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks, so that you may learn to revere the Lord your God always. When he blesses you, if the place where he chooses to locate his name is distant, you may convert the tithe into money, secure the money, and travel to the place the Lord your God chooses for himself. Then you may spend the money however you wish for cattle, sheep, wine, beer, or whatever else you desire. You and your household may eat there in the presence of the Lord your God and enjoy it. As for the Levites in your villages, you must not ignore them, for they have no allotment or inheritance along with you. At the end of every 3 years, you must bring all the tithe of your produce in that very year, and you must store it up in your villages. Then the Levites, because they have no allotment or inheritance with you, the resident foreigners, the orphans, and the widows of your villages may come and eat their fill, so that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work you do. All right. So this was about listing of clean and unclean animals, bringing the tithe and enjoying food, and not forgetting the Levites, the widows, the orphans, the resident foreigner. Right. Deuteronomy 15, the year of debt release. At the end of 7 years, At the end of 7 years, you must declare a cancellation of debts. This is the nature of the cancellation. Every creditor must remit what he has loaned to another person. He must not force payment from his fellow Israelite, for it is to be recognized as the Lord's cancellation of debts. You may exact payment from a foreigner, but whatever your fellow Israelite owes you, you must remit. However, there should not be any poor among you, for the Lord will surely bless you in the land that he is giving you as an inheritance. There should not be any poor among you. Huh. If you carefully obey him by keeping all these commandments that I am giving you today. For the Lord your God will bless you, just as he has promised you, will lend to many nations, but will not borrow from any, and you will rule over many nations, but they will not rule over you. If a fellow Israelite from one of your villages in the land that the Lord your God is giving you should be poor, you must not harden your heart or be insensitive to his impoverished condition. Instead, you must be sure to open your hand to him and generously lend him whatever he needs. Be careful lest you entertain the wicked thought that the 7th year, the year of cancellation of debts, has almost arrived, and your attitude be wrong toward your impoverished fellow Israelite, and you do not lend him anything. He will cry out to the Lord against you, and you will be regarded as having sinned. You must by all means lend to him, and not be upset by doing it, for because of this, the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in everything you attempt. There will never cease to be some poor people in the land. Therefore, I am commanding you to make sure you open your hand to your fellow Israelites who are needy and poor in your land. If your fellow Hebrew, whether male or female, is sold to you and serves you for 6 years, then in the 7th year you must let that servant go free. If you set them free, you must not send them away empty-handed. You must supply them generously from your flock, your threshing floor, and your winepress. As the Lord your God blesses you, you must give to them. Remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. Therefore, I am commanding you to do this thing today. However, if the servant says to you, I do not want to leave you, because he loves you and your household, since he is well off with you, you shall take an awl and pierce a hole through his ear to the door. Then he will become your servant permanently. This applies to your female servant as well. You should not consider it difficult to let him go free, for he will have served you for 6 years, twice the time of a hired worker. The Lord your God will bless you in everything you do. You must set apart for the Lord your God every firstborn male to your herds and flocks. You must not work the firstborn of your bulls or shear the firstborn of your flocks. And you and your household must eat them annually before the Lord your God in the place he chooses. If one of them has any kind of blemish, lameness, blindness, or anything else, you may not offer it as a sacrifice to the Lord your God. You may eat it in your villages, whether you are ritually impure or clean, just as you would eat a gazelle or an ibex. However, you must not eat its blood. You must pour it out on the ground like water. Okay. Forgiveness of debts. The land is more than plentiful enough that everyone will be able to have, and enough for no one to be poor. But there will be poor people, and they are commanded to care for them and not take advantage of them. If they have a fellow Hebrew as a servant after 7 years, they are to let them go free, but the servant can choose to remain for the rest of his or her life. All right. Oh yeah, and giving the best to God for sure. Serves you 6 years. Oh, in the 7th year. Okay. After 6 years. Okay. They are to bring their first fruits to God. Period. The firstborn is the Lord's, comma, they are to eat it in an appointed place, comma, it must be without blemish. Deuteronomy 16. The Passover. All right. By the way, if you're watching this morning and you want to, just let me know how you're doing in the chat. It helps me feel more connected to you as we're doing this together. Let's keep reading, though. The Passover. Observe the month Abib and keep the Passover to the Lord your God, for in that month he brought you out of Egypt by night. You must sacrifice the Passover animal from the flock or the herd to the Lord your God in the place where he chooses to locate his name. You must not eat any yeast with it. For 7 days you must eat bread made without yeast, as symbolic of affliction. For you came out of Egypt hurriedly. You must do this so you will remember for the rest of your lives the day you came out of the land of Egypt. There must not be a scrap of yeast within your land for 7 days, nor can any of the meat you sacrifice on the evening of the first day remain until the next morning. You may not sacrifice the Passover in just any of your villages that the Lord your God is giving you, but you must sacrifice it in the evening in the place where he chooses to locate his name. At sunset, the time of day you came out of Egypt, you must cook and eat it in the place the Lord your God chooses. You may return the next morning to your tents. You must eat bread made without yeast for 6 days. The seventh day you are to hold an assembly for the Lord your God. You must not do any work on that day. You must count 7 weeks. You must begin to count them from the time you begin to harvest the standing grain. Then you are to celebrate the Feast of Weeks before the Lord your God with the voluntary offering that you will bring, in proportion to how he has blessed you. You shall rejoice before him, you, your son, your daughter, your male and female slaves, the Levites in your villages, the resident foreigner, the orphans, and the widows among you, in the place where the Lord chooses to locate his name. Furthermore, remember that you were a slave in Egypt, and so be careful to observe these statutes. The Feast of Temporary Shelters. You must celebrate the Feast of Shelters for 7 days at the time of the grain and grape harvest. You are to rejoice in your festival, you, your son, your daughter, your male and female slaves, the Levites, the resident foreigners, the orphans, and the widows who are in your villages. You are to celebrate the festival 7 days before the Lord your God in a place he chooses, for he will bless you in all your productivity and in whatever you do, so you will indeed rejoice. 3 times a year, all your males must appear before the Lord your God in the place he chooses for the feast of unleavened bread, the feast of weeks, and the feast of shelters. They must not appear before him empty-handed. Every one of you must give as you are able, according to the blessing the Lord your God the blessing of the Lord your God that he has given you. You must appoint judges and civil servants for each tribe in all your villages that the Lord your God is giving you, and they must judge the people fairly. You must not pervert justice or show favor. Do not take a bribe, for bribes blind the eyes of the wise and distort the words of the righteous. You must pursue justice alone, so that you may live and inherit the land the Lord your God is giving you. You must not plant any kind of tree as a sacred Asherah pole near the altar of the Lord your God, which you build for yourself. You must not erect a sacred pillar, a thing the Lord your God detests. All right. Passover, comma, Feast of Weeks and Temporary Shelters. Feast of Weeks, comma, Feast of Temporary Shelters. They must have judges, and they must be just. Then they are not to make Asherah poles or any other thing for idol worship, comma, they are not to do that near an altar to the Lord. Didn't get Asherah. Asherah pole or a sacred pillar. sacred pillar. Specifically, holy mentioned, not near the altar to the Lord. Yeah. Okay. Excuse me. Doing well. Nice. Good to hear. Um, let's keep reading. Actually, I'm gonna check the collaborative notes quickly. No, nothing this morning. That's all right. It is a bit more of a slightly drier text this morning, but I hope that you're still seeing the beauty in it, seeing God in His goodness, making these proclamations and these commands, statutes, and ordinances to His people to help guide them in how they should live and how they should be distinct. So let's read chapter 17 now. You must not sacrifice to him a bull or sheep that has a blemish or any other defect, because that is considered offensive to the Lord your God. Suppose a man or woman is discovered among you in one of your villages that the Lord your God is giving you, who sins before the Lord your God and breaks his covenant by serving other gods and worshiping them, the sun, moon, or any other heavenly bodies that I have not permitted you to worship, when it is reported to you and you hear about it, you must investigate carefully. If it is indeed true that such a disgraceful thing is being done in Israel, you must bring to your city gates that man or woman who has done this wicked thing, that very man or woman, and you must stone that person to death. At the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, the person must be executed. They cannot be put to death on the testimony of only one witness. The witness must be the first to begin the execution, and then all the people are to join in afterward. In this way, you will purge the evil from among you. The witnesses, sorry. If a matter is too difficult for you to judge, bloodshed, legal claim, or assault, matters of controversy in your villages, you must leave there and go to the place the Lord your God chooses. You will go to the Levitical priests and the judge in office in those days and seek a solution. They will render a verdict. You must then do as they have determined at that place the Lord chooses. Be careful to do just as you are taught. You must do what you are instructed, and the verdict they pronounce to you will without fail. Do not deviate right or left from what they tell you. The person who pays no attention to the priest currently serving the Lord your God there, or to the judge, that person must die, so that you may purge evil from Israel. Then all the people will hear and be afraid and not be so presumptuous again. Oops. Oh. When you come to the land the Lord your God is giving you and take it over and live in it, and then say, I will select a king like all the nations surrounding me, you must select without fail a king whom the Lord your God chooses. From among your fellow citizens, you must appoint a king. You may not designate a foreigner who is not one of your fellow Israelites. Moreover, he must not accumulate horses for himself or allow the people to return to Egypt to do so. For the Lord has said, you must never again return that way. Furthermore, he must not marry many wives, lest his affections turn aside, and he must not accumulate much silver and gold. When he sits on his royal throne, he must make a copy of this law on a scroll given to him by the Levitical priests. He must be with him constantly. It must be with him constantly, and he must read it as long as he lives, so that he may learn to revere the Lord his God and observe all the words of his law, these statutes, and carry them out. Then he will not exalt himself above his fellow citizens or turn from the commandments to the right or left, and he and his descendants will enjoy many years ruling over his kingdom in Israel. Okay. They must purge evil from among them. If someone commits idolatry and worships something that is not God, they are to be stoned. On account of 2 or 3 witnesses, comma, 1 witness is not enough. Provision. Okay, yeah. When they will request the king must be an Israelite, and that king's mind must be saturated with the law of God, so he will not exalt himself over the people. Deuteronomy 18. The Levitical priests, indeed, the entire tribe of Levi, will have no allotment or inheritance with Israel. They may eat the burnt offerings of the Lord of his and of his inheritance. They will have no inheritance in the midst of their fellow Israelites. The Lord alone is their inheritance, just as he had told them. This shall be the priests' as a fair allotment from the people who offer sacrifices, whether bull or sheep. They must give to the priest the shoulder, the jowls, and the stomach. You must give them the best of your grain, new wine, and olive oil, as well as the best of your wool, when you shear your flocks. For the Lord your God has chosen them and their sons from all your tribes to stand and serve in his name permanently. Suppose a Levite comes by his own free will from one of your villages, from any part of Israel where he is living, to the place the Lord chooses, and serves in the name of the Lord his God, like his fellow Levites who stand there before the Lord. He must eat the same share they do, despite any profits he may gain from the sale of his family's inheritance. When you enter the land your God is giving you, you must not learn the abhorrent practices of those nations. There must never be found among you anyone who sacrifices his son or daughter in the fire, anyone who practices divination, an omen reader, a soothsayer, a sorcerer, one who casts spells, one who conjures up spirits, a practitioner of the occult, or a necromancer. Whoever does these things is abhorrent to the Lord, and because of these detestable things, the Lord your God is about to drive them out from before you. You must be blameless before the Lord your God. Those nations that you are about to dispossess listen to omen readers and diviners, but the Lord your God has not given you permission to do such things. The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you, from your fellow Israelites. You must listen to him. This accord with with what happened at Horeb in the day of the assembly. You asked the Lord your God, please do not make us hear the voice of the Lord our God any more, or see this great fire any more, lest we die. The Lord then said to me, what they have said is good. I will raise up a prophet like you for them from among their fellow Israelites. I will put my words in his mouth, and he will speak to them whatever I command. I will personally hold responsible anyone who then pays no attention to the words that prophet speaks in my name. But if any prophet presumes to speak anything in my name that I have not authorized him to speak, or speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet must die. Now, if you say to yourselves, how can we tell that a message is not from the Lord? Whenever a prophet speaks in my name and the prediction is not fulfilled, then I have not spoken it. The prophet has presumed to speak it, so you need not fear him. All right. Okay. So there is a provision made for the Levites, priests. Some of these are hard to summarize. Uh, okay. Actually, a lot of these are hard to summarize, but the people are completely barred from doing any of the evil practices of other nations. The prophets must speak only what God tells them to speak and not speak on behalf of false gods. The test of the true prophet is what he says, the Lord says, will take place. All right. Deuteronomy 19. When the Lord your God destroys the nations whose land he is about to give you, and you dispossess them and settle in their cities and houses, you must set apart for yourselves 3 cities in the middle of your land that the Lord your God is giving you as a possession. You shall build a roadway and divide it into thirds the whole extent of your land that the Lord your God is providing as your inheritance. Anyone who kills another person should flee to the closest of these cities. Now this is the law pertaining to the one who flees there in order to live. If he has accidentally killed another without hating him at the time of the accident, suppose he goes with someone else to the forest to cut wood, and when he raises the axe to cut the tree, the axe head flies loose from the handle and strikes his fellow worker so hard that he dies. The person responsible may then flee to one of these cities to save him. Sorry, I completely, like, side note, but I wasn't laughing because that's a funny verse. It's actually, yeah, quite tragic if that happens. I was laughing because I thought it was funny because my brother once upon a time in a card to a friend as a like funny inspirational verse he wrote this verse just to be funny. And anyways, anytime I've heard, or the few times I've seen and heard this verse, it just kind of makes me think of that. And I don't know, I just thought it was funny. Otherwise, the blood avenger, will chase after the killer in the heat of his anger, eventually overtake him and kill him, though it is not a capital case, since he did not hate him at the time of the accident. Therefore, I am commanding you to set apart for yourselves 3 cities. If the Lord your God enlarges your borders as he promised your ancestors and gives you all the land he pledged to them, and then you are careful to observe all these commandments I am giving you today, namely to love the Lord your God and to always walk in his ways, then you must add 3 more cities to these 3. You must not shed innocent blood in your land that the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, for that would make you guilty. However, suppose a person hates someone else and stalks him, attacks him, kills him, and then flees to one of these cities. The elders of his own city must send for him and remove him from there and to deliver him over to the blood avenger to die. You must not pity him, but purge from Israel the guilt of shedding innocent blood, so that it may go well with you. You must not encroach on your neighbor's property, which will have been defined in the inheritance you will obtain in the land the Lord your God is giving you. A single witness may not testify against another person for any trespass or sin that he commits. A matter may be legally established only on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If a false witness testifies against another person and accuses him of a crime, then both parties to the controversy must stand before the Lord, that is, before the priests and judges who will be in office in those days. The judges will thoroughly investigate the matter, and if the witness should prove to be false and to have given false testimony against the accused, you must do to him what he had intended to do to the accused. In this way, you will purge evil from among you. The rest of the people will hear and become afraid to keep doing such evil among you. You must not show pity. The principle will be a life for a life, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for a hand, a foot for a foot. Okay. Deuteronomy 18. Okay. Cities of refuge for someone who accidentally kills someone else. not encroaching on another's territory. You need 2 or 3 witnesses to condemn someone of a sin. One witness is not enough. If someone accuses someone falsely, then the consequence they were accusing someone should receive, that person, the accuser, will receive. Deuteronomy 20. When you go to war against your enemies and see chariotry and troops who outnumber you, do not be afraid of them, for the Lord your God, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt, is with you. As you move forward for battle, the priest will approach and say to the soldiers, "Listen, Israel, today you are moving forward to do battle with your enemies. Do not be faint-hearted, do not fear and tremble, or be terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you to fight on your behalf against your enemies, to give you victory." Moreover, the officers are to say to the troops, "Who among you has built a new house and not dedicated it? He may go home, lest he die in battle, and someone else dedicate it. Or who among you has planted a vineyard and not benefited from it? He may go home, lest he die in battle, and someone else benefit from it. Or who among you has become engaged to a woman but has not married her? He may go home, lest he die in battle and someone else marry her. In addition, the officers are to say to the troops, "Who among you is afraid and faint-hearted? He may go home, so that he will not make his fellow soldier's heart as fearful as his own." Then the officers have finished. When the officers have finished speaking, they must appoint unit commanders to lead the troops. When you approach a city to wage war against it, offer it terms of peace. If it accepts your terms and submits to you, all the people found in it will become your slaves. If it does not accept terms of peace but makes war with you, then you are to lay siege to it. The Lord your God will deliver it over to you, and you must kill every single male by the sword. However, the women, the little children, little children, cattle, and anything else in the city, all its plunder, you may take for yourselves as spoil. You may take from your enemies the plunder that the Lord your God has given you. This is how you are to deal with all those cities located far from you, those that do not belong to these nearby nations. As for the cities of these people that the Lord your God is going to give you as an inheritance, you must not allow a single living thing to survive. Instead, you must utterly annihilate them, the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, just as the Lord your God has commanded you, so that they cannot teach you all the abhorred ways they worship their gods, causing you to sin against the Lord your God. If you besiege a city for a long time while attempting to capture it, you must chop down its trees, for you may eat fruit from them and should not cut them down. Oh, you must not chop down. Sorry, you must not chop down its trees, for you may eat fruit from them and should not cut them down. A tree in the field is not human, that you should besiege it. However, you may chop down any tree you know is not suitable for food, and you may use it to build siege works against the city that is making war with you until that city falls. When they go to war, the commanders are to allow different people to leave and go back home. For example, someone who's planted a vineyard, someone who recently became engaged, someone who is afraid. ... Yeah. When they approach a city, they must offer it peace first. They must destroy the nations that are currently living in the land. Deuteronomy 21. If a homicide victim should be found lying in a field in the land the Lord your God is giving you, and no one knows who killed him, your elders and judges must go out and measure how far it is to the cities in the vicinity of the corpse. Then the elders of the city nearest to the corpse must take from the herd a heifer that has not been worked, that has never pulled with the yoke, and bring the heifer down to a wadi with flowing water, to a valley that is neither plowed nor sown. There, at the wadi, they are to break the heifer's neck. Then the Levitical priests will approach, for the Lord your God has chosen them to serve him and to pronounce blessings in his name and to decide every judicial verdict. And all the elders of that city nearest the corpse must wash their hands over the heifer whose neck was broken in the valley. Then they must proclaim, our hands have not spilled this blood, nor have we witnessed the crime. Do not blame your people, Israel, whom you redeemed. O Lord, do not hold them accountable for the bloodshed of an innocent person. Then atonement will be made for the blood. In this matter, you will purge the guilt of innocent blood from among you, for you must do what is right before the Lord. When you go out and do battle with your enemies, and the Lord your God allows you to prevail, and you take prisoners, if you should see among them an attractive woman whom you wish to take as a wife, you may bring her back to your house. She must shave her head, trim her nails, discard the clothing she was wearing when captured, and stay in your house, lamenting for her father and mother for a full month. After that, you may sleep with her and become her husband, and she your wife. If you are not pleased with her, then you must let her go where she pleases. You cannot in any case sell her. You must not take advantage of her, since you have already humiliated her. Suppose a man has two wives, one whom he loves more than the other, and they both bear him sons, with the firstborn being the child of the less loved wife. That's funny, because that's literally Jacob. In the day he divides his inheritance, he must not appoint as firstborn the son of the favorite wife in place of the other wife's son, who is actually the firstborn. Rather, he must acknowledge the son of the less loved wife as firstborn and give him the double portion of all he has, for that son is the beginning of his father's procreative power. To him should go, that's funny, the right of the firstborn. If a person has a stubborn, rebellious son who pays no attention to his father and mother, they discipline him to no avail, his father and mother must seize him and bring him to the elders at the gate of the city. They must declare to the elders of the city, our son is stubborn and rebellious and pays no attention to what we say. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Then all the men of the city must stone him to death. In this way, you will purge wickedness from among you, and all Israel will hear about it and be afraid. If a person commits a sin punishable by death and is executed, and you hang the corpse on a tree, his body must not remain all night on the tree. Instead, you must make certain you bury him that same day. For no one who is left exposed on a tree is cursed by God. You must not defile your land that the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance. The land must not be defiled. What happens if people find a murdered person in a field? Allowance to take a wife after taking a city. Yeah, okay. Laws about children and inheritance and disobedient children. And if a husband has a wife that he loves more than the other, and the lesser loved wife has the firstborn, that firstborn should get the firstborn rights. Deuteronomy 22. Laws concerning preservation of life. When you see your neighbor's ox or sheep going astray, do not ignore it. You must return it without fail to your neighbor. If the owner does not live near you or you do not know who the owner is, then you must corral the animal at your house and let it stay with you until the owner looks for it. Then you must return it to him. You shall do the same to his donkey, his clothes, or anything else your neighbor has lost and you have found. You must not refuse to get involved. When you see your neighbor's donkey or ox fallen on the road, do not ignore it. Instead, you must be sure to help him get the animal on its feet again. A woman must not wear men's clothing, nor should a man dress up in women's clothing, for anyone who does this is offensive to the Lord your God. If you happen to notice a bird's nest along the road, whether in a tree or on the ground, and there are chicks or eggs with the mother bird sitting on them, you must not take the mother from the young. You must be sure to let the mother go, but you may take the young for yourself. Do this so that it may go well with you and you may have a long life. If you build a new house, you must construct a guardrail around your roof to avoid being culpable in the event someone should fall from it. You must not plant your vineyard with two kinds of seed, otherwise the entire yield, both the seed you plant and the produce of the vineyard, will be defiled. You must not plow with an ox and a donkey harnessed together. You must not wear clothing made with wool and linen meshed together. You shall make yourselves tassels for the four corners of the clothing you wear. Suppose a man marries a woman, sleeps with her, and then rejects her, accusing her of impropriety and defaming her reputation by saying, I married this woman, but when I approached her for marital relations, I discovered she was not a virgin. Then the father and the mother of the young woman must produce the evidence of virginity for the elders of the city at the gate. The young woman's father must say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man, he has rejected her. Moreover, he has raised accusations of impropriety by saying, I discovered your daughter was not a virgin, but this is the evidence of my daughter's virginity. The cloth must then be spread out before the city's elders. The elders of that city must then seize the man and punish him. They will fine him 100 shekels of silver and give them to the young woman's father, for the man who made the accusation ruined the reputation of an Israelite virgin. She will then become his wife, and he may never divorce her as long as he lives. But if the accusation is true and the young woman was not a virgin, the men of her city must bring the young woman to the door of her father's house and stone her to death, for she has done a disgraceful thing in Israel by behaving like a prostitute while living in her father's house. In this way, you will purge the evil from among you. If a man is discovered in bed with a married woman, both the man lying in bed with the woman and the woman herself must die. In this way you will purge the evil from Israel. If a virgin is engaged to a man and another man meets her in the city and goes to bed with her, you must bring the two of them to the gate of that city and stone them to death. The young woman, because she did not cry out though in the city, and the man because he violated his neighbor's fiancée. In this way you will purge evil from among you. But if the man came across the engaged woman in the field and overpowered her and raped her, then only the rapist must die. You must not do anything to the young woman. She has done nothing deserving of death. This case is the same as when someone attacks another person and murders him. For the man met her in the field, and the engaged woman cried out, but there was no one to rescue her. Suppose a man comes across a virgin who is not engaged, and takes hold of her, and sleeps with her, and they are discovered. The man who has slept with her must pay her father 50 shekels of silver, and she must become his wife. Because he has humiliated her, he may never divorce her as long as he lives. A man may not marry his father's former wife, and in this way dishonor his father. Okay. No, man. Okay. Care and help for neighbors. There's so many random laws in this one. Laws for the people to be pure and for marriage to be pure. Deuteronomy 23. This is our last chapter of the morning. Purity in public worship. A man with crushed or severed genitals may not enter the assembly of the Lord. A person of illegitimate birth may not enter the assembly of the Lord to the 10th of generation. No one related to him may do so. No Ammonite or Moabite may enter the assembly of the Lord to the 10th generation. None of their descendants shall ever do so. For they did not meet you with food and water on the way as you came from Egypt. Furthermore, they hired Balaam, son of Beor, of Pethor in Aram Naharaim, to curse you. But the Lord your God refused to listen to Balaam and changed the curse to a blessing. For the Lord your God loves you. You must not seek peace and prosperity for them through all the ages to come. You must not hate an Edomite, for he is your relative. You must not hate an Egyptian, for you lived as a foreigner in his land. Children of the 3rd generation born to them may enter the assembly of the Lord. When you go out as an army against your enemies, guard yourselves against anything impure. If there is someone among you who is impure because of some nocturnal emission, he must leave the camp. He may not re-enter immediately. When evening arrives, he must wash himself with water, and then at sunset he may re-enter the camp. You are to have a place outside the camp to serve as a latrin. You must have a spade among you, other equipment, and when you relieve yourself outside, you must dig a hole with the spade, and then turn and cover your excrement. For the Lord your God walks about in the middle of your camp to deliver you and defeat your enemies for you. Therefore your camp should be holy, so that he does not see anything indecent among you and turn away from you. You must not return an escaped slave to his master you must not return an escaped slave to his master when he has run away to you. Indeed, he may live among you in any place he chooses, in whichever of your villages he prefers. You must not oppress him. You must not return an escaped slave. There must never be a sacred prostitute among the young women of Israel, nor a sacred male prostitute among the young men of Israel. You must never bring the pay of a female prostitute or the wage of a male prostitute into the temple of the Lord your God in fulfillment of any vow, for both of these are abhorrent to the Lord your God. You must not charge interest on a loan to your fellow Israelite, whether on money, food, or anything else that has been loaned with interest. You may lend with interest to a foreigner, but not to your fellow Israelite. If you keep this command, the Lord your God will bless you in all you undertake in the land you are about to enter to possess. When you make a vow to the Lord your God, you must not delay in fulfilling it, for otherwise he will surely hold you accountable as a sinner. If you refrain from making a vow, it will not be sinful. Whatever you vow, you must be careful to do what you have promised, such as what you have vowed to the Lord your God as a freewill offering. When you enter the vineyard of your neighbor, you may eat as many grapes as you please, but you must not take away any in a container. When you go into the ripe grain fields of your neighbor, you may pluck off the kernels with your hand, but you must not use a sickle on your neighbor's ripe grain. Okay, yeah. So here, what we see is highlighted as important is personal purity. There's, care for each other, no prostitution. Care for each other, no prostitution. Yeah. they must have and show respect for each other's properties. Okay, that's this morning's reading. Tomorrow morning, we are going to be finishing the book of Numbers. Wait, no, sorry, the book of Deuteronomy, which means we're also going to be finishing the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible. This is pretty cool, pretty crazy. I hope you're really enjoying and learning and growing as I am as we're doing this. Let's pray and then let's go have a wonderful day ahead of us. Lord, I thank you so much for this day. I thank you for your law. Thank you that you've expressed it in a way to guide your people that was something that was meant to take care of your people. Lord, thank you that we get to look back on it and reflect on it, and we get to see your care for your people at the time, and we get to see your heart in it. Lord, I'm just thinking of the part where the law is to be such a part of the king's life when when the point comes in which a king would be demanded by the people. Lord, you made provision so that that king would be so focused on you. And I think of King David, who was so focused on you, who loved your law, who meditated on your law so much. Um, and he recognized the beauty in it. He recognized the care and the goodness behind it. Lord, I pray that we would um, desire to live for you fully and desiring to just be so holy, so devoted, so focused on you, God, that we would fill our minds with you. Lord, that our minds would be renewed by you. Work in us today. I pray in your name, Jesus. Amen. Have an amazing day. Go abide with him today and see you tomorrow.